leading expert in brain science. Why do you think it's so important that people become more aware and learn more about the brain?
Well, because in order to have appropriate behavior, and in order to be able to take advantage of one's life and be the most productive and the happiest for oneself and for society, one needs to have a very good understanding of how the mind works, of how our body physiology works, and you can only get to that by understanding the science of body and brain, the science that in fact allows us to know where the mind comes from and how it operates.
So do you feel that there's hope in today's society to really make enough individuals aware that it can have a global impact?
Oh yes, I think so. I think that, as I mentioned today, I think education is the main instrument. The more we will be able to educate individuals to understand their condition and the condition of others, the more likely it will be that they will be more effective, that they will help others, that they will be able to create the instruments of happiness, which have to do not just with wealth in the sense of money and power, but a very special power, which is the power to create goodness, the power to solve problems, the power to avoid or solve conflict, eradicate diseases, and all of those things that we really all know are very important and should be tried. Okay?
Do you think brain education can be a useful tool for spreading?
Yes, because the more we understand about how the brain works, and the more we will be able to use it to make people more aware and more effective in their lives. So yes, I think it's a good instrument.
And what kind of plans do you have to spread this? I know you're a professor.
Well, I do a lot of research on trying to understand how the brain works, and right now my effort is to understand in particular how emotions work, how they have an impact on decision making, how they have an impact on how we run our lives. And that's really the point that I want to follow in my research. Okay?
What do you think about the potential for brain education? Do you think it would be a good tool to have an impact on the society that we live in?
I think that the number one secret to people finding the peace inside of themselves is recognition of what's going on inside of their own heads. So if this tool can help them obtain that, then I think it's great.
And from your own enlightenment and experience, what do you think is a good way for as many people as possible to really learn about their brain, be aware of their brains?
I think there are a lot of different tools that have been very helpful to helping people wake up to their own possibilities, their own beauty, their own abilities, and I'm hoping that this is a tool that also can be used.
Did you enjoy the conference today?
I had a great time, great people. They think the same way I think, and it's really all about helping people understand how to have a relationship with their own brain and to take responsibility for what's going on in there.
And when you look at society and the way our world is today, do you see a lot of hope for things to change?
I think that there is a transformation happening in what we want as a people on the planet. I think we understand that we want more compassion, we want to be more compassionate, we want a more loving world, and we're enthusiastically in support of that idea. So I have a lot of hope, and I think a lot of people have a lot of hope.
It's just the last question. Do you have, what are your plans for, I mean, you're already teaching and you're doing so much already. What kind of visions or plans do you have for the future?
You know, I identifying ways that I can influence corporate America as well as from the grassroots up, individuals and how they think about their brain. So I'm a true advocate for knowing more about your brain, knowing that you have two of them, knowing what they do, knowing how to get them to work together so that we can all have a more balanced brain approach to our lives and take more responsibility for the piece that we're projecting into the world. So I have very high hopes for the future.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, last question.
Okay.
Where do you think this kind of unlimited power and potential from the brain comes from?
Where does it come from? Like, can you be more specific? I think the potential comes from the brain, and there are two very different hemispheres with incredible potential in both of them. I don't think as a society we have capitalized on what's going on in the right hemisphere as much as we have capitalized on what's going on in the left hemisphere. So I really think that in order for us to fulfill our destiny and our evolution as a species, that it's going to take the integration of both halves.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay.
What do you think of the potential for brain education to have an impact on the society and the world?
I think the potential for brain education to have an impact on society and the world is very strong. The possibility in a global society that is engrossed in negativity is difficult, but potential is there because we have interested people. Just at today's conference, you have over 500 people in attendance from, I believe they said, we were told 10 different countries. So that tells you that there are people from around the world who are interested in the potential of brain development and for the promotion of peace. I recently returned from Norway and doing a series of presentations there. I went to the Peace Museum in Oslo, and I picked up this briefcase. It has the peace symbol. I think that there are people who are profoundly aware and concerned about our global society and want to bring forth the idea of reaching out to other people and in a positive manner. I have a statement I use in the courses that I teach at Malloy College. It's no put-downs, only lift-ups. So that if we turn to one another with caring and concern, with positive statements by not putting people down, then we have the potential enhanced. And that's what I think brain education is about. That's why I'm here. That's why I think it's important. It's because it promotes the idea of people caring for other people in a humanitarian way. Long answer, short question.
Great answer. Thank you so much. How about in the United States? Do you think it can help address some of the issues that are in the U.S. culture and society in this country now?
I think this is the U.S. culture and society at its core. If we do not have people caring about one another, if we do not have the components of character development, then we have no education at all. Because underscoring every course that somebody might teach, every grade level, every class, is first that there must be community. And the community must encourage acceptance of one another for the promotion of people living together harmoniously. If we do not have this first, well, let me say this, we must have this first in order to be able to function. We are human beings. It's simply humans in the act of being. That's what we're doing. And our being must be that of care and concern for all peoples, from all nations, from all ethnic groups, ages, races, cultural diversity. We need to be aware of that. And the place that we begin this is through brain education and knowing that we are one, not separate, but together with. That's the concept. We are together with one another.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very interesting and unique way of drawing attention to brain science, but also equally important is drawing attention to the whole value of brain education and education in general to advancing the development of the world, and especially those less fortunate in the developed countries who may be left behind. So I think that insofar as the United Nations is concerned, combating poverty, achieving a true partnership for development comes through increasing the educational chances of our youth across the world, increasing their knowledge and increasing their access to knowledge, which will place them on a level much greater than they hitherto would have been able to achieve. In other words, in the country where I come from, education is what we call the great equalizer. It enables you social mobility, it enables you increased knowledge, and it enables you to communicate on the same level as those in the developed world. So I think that education is a core value which we all can resonate with. So, and it meets the Millennium Development Goals. Education is one of the primary objectives when the reference is made to access to universal primary education, because you have to start the education at the youth level in order to create the necessary stages for them to move ahead. So yes, I think it's very important, and I think that what the Korean Brain Institute has come up with is very unique. It seems like a scientific method of stimulating the advancement of education through brain science, and we're truly fascinated by it.
How about in your country? Do you think, what kind of, how can brain education help with the issues or things that are going on in your country?
Well, what we are prepared to consider is the idea for Dr. Il-Chi Lee perhaps to go down. The former Korean Minister of Education was with him this morning, and he's been to Jamaica, and we would allow them to go and speak to our university lecturers and the head of the administration of our university, as well as in our own schools, to see where the gaps are and to see how they could help to address some of those deficiencies through brain science and brain education. So we are contemplating an initial first visit of Dr. Lee. He needs to go and introduce himself. He would sit with some of our academicians on campus and to see how valuable the tool that he has could be used in Jamaica. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. All the other basic human rights through education, because education is one of the critical platforms of the Universal Declaration on Human Rights. And it cuts across the right to development, the right to food, and so on, because it helps to upgrade the level of existence of citizens across the globe. Yes.
Well, brain education is something that should be an important element in everything that we do as educators, as parents. When we think about the question I always pose, which is, if it's your job to develop the mind, shouldn't you know how the brain works? And if we think about that question deeply, we begin to recognize that everything we do is a consequence of some element of the brain playing a critically important role. If we talk about child development, it's about brain development. When we talk about education, it's about brain plasticity. But everything we do is somehow related significantly to what the brain's doing.
Do you think it can have through the education, do you think it can have an impact on the way the society is built? Because a lot of people are talking about how fundamentally there's so many problems with today's society.
Well, if we look at the kinds of problems we see in schools in particular, oftentimes, particularly in America now, with No Child Left Behind, our focus is on assessment as opposed to teaching thinking. And we also look at not teaching mathematics or teaching science. We say it's teaching within the context of science, teaching thinking within the context of mathematics, giving students the kinds of cognitive tools that will help them learn how to solve problems in the future, most of which don't even exist today. But the strategies for solving those problems do. So the more students first understand how their brains work, educators understand how the mind works, what are the kinds of things that foster development of the whole child, and doing so fully, suddenly we begin to make a transition from traditional education to education that is truly brain education.
Thank you. You've been an educator for many years.
Yes.
How do you think it can be applied on a kind of global level? Do you think it's something that can be inputted into educational systems around the world, or is it something that's limited to certain cultures?
No. Education is all about teaching and learning, and how is it that we mold the developing brain. And there are strategies, no matter where you are. We say students come in a variety of different colors, but brains are all basically gray. And it's a gray matter that only matters when it comes to learning. And we're working with the same gray matter no matter where we are in the world. If we talk about developing young minds, it's basically the same type of mind. And if we look at issues like prenatal brain development, prenatal nutrition, we look at what happens in the early years, the developmental years, and adulthood. We're working with basically the same type of material, but we develop certain conditions to produce certain types of outcomes, so that as the years transpire, we have the kinds of brains that we know are going to lead to productive citizens. And that's our ultimate goal with brain education.
This last question. What do you think of do you think there's a lot of hope for brain education to really be widespread?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If you look at some places where kids are learning via rote and they fail, kids learn via lecture, and we know that only 13% of learners are typically auditory learners, which means 87% of the students in our schools are not being reached. There are other places where the number is even smaller. And so we say, what are the ways in which the brain prefers to learn? What are the strategies that cater to those kinds of preferences? And the more we spend our time focusing on how the brain prefers to learn, the better job that we'll do as educators. We know that all kids are kinesthetic learners. They start off as kinesthetic learners. In the womb, they're learning about the environment via the senses. And the more we continue to develop these sensory systems with education, the easier it is for kids to learn. And if you look at almost every abstract concept is somehow grounded in a concrete scenario. And that's using the senses to develop those concrete scenarios for more abstract thinking at the higher cognitive levels. And the more we give kids opportunities to use what they already know, use what they've already developed in the educational setting, kids are going to be more successful. But when we say every child must learn by reading, some kids are not good readers. Some kids don't translate the printed word that effectively. And suddenly kids who are very good thinkers, who are very good learners, are stymied focused on nothing but learning from a textbook. And many of our kids throughout the world struggle when we move to that kind of learning. But learning doesn't take place with a textbook. It doesn't take place within the four walls of a classroom. Learning takes place inside the brain. And anywhere you take the brain, someone's going to learn. And anything that you do with the hands commands the attention of the brain. And so we find that hands-on learning, no matter what discipline, hands-on learning is one of the most effective ways for teaching kids of every culture, anywhere in the world. And all kids love to learn. They come to school with an intense need and a natural need to learn and succeed. When you watch toddlers, they'll walk, they'll fall down, they'll get back up. No one criticizes them for failing. Everyone says, hey, you're continuing to learn, you're getting better. And that's how our school system should be structured, where the encouragement is on all of these successes rather than identifying all of the failures. And too many kids, attitudinally and emotionally, respond negatively to those identifications of failure. When we see a student's schoolwork, we mark all the wrong answers, as opposed to saying, how is it that we cultivate and build on those strong, good, positive answers? And too many kids wind up feeling badly about themselves, and suddenly school becomes a challenge, not because of the content, but because of the treatment. And that's where brain education can make a tremendous difference by informing educators. How is it that students respond to treatment in the schools? How is it that they respond to content? And how is it that you can merge the two together so all kids can be successful?
You know, everything has to do with the audience. And the audience was wonderful. I mean, they were so receptive and they were so eager to learn new things, and I think this is wonderful. This is the best audience you can hope for.
I heard you had a brief experience of brain education. Could you share what you felt or how you felt when you experienced that?
Yeah, actually, it was right before my lecture, and I was a little tense before my lecture, and it helped me calm down because I was closing my eyes and I visualized being calm and happy. And when I woke up, she called me and to give the presentation, and I said, okay, now I'm relaxed. That was good. So it helped me concentrate on the memory stunt that I did on the presentation. So that was a wonderful exercise. Well, yeah, I still working on some plans, but I hope very much to introduce brain education. There's differences in mentality, I think, between United States, Korea, Israel, and I believe that many Israelis will enjoy brain education, and we're building up a program to introduce that, and President Lee also, and I hope it works out.
And also, I heard that you had a meeting with Lee today. How was the meeting?
The meeting was very good. I like President Lee a lot. I think he's an amazing individual with a kind heart, lots of wisdom, and I'm always impressed and happy to meet him. And I really hope for more cooperation in the future. Well, it's like President Lee said, brain education is the future. It is the future because all of us have brains and we don't always know how to use it properly. And since President Lee is trying to promote world peace, everything comes with inner peace. And inner peace comes from the mind and the way your brain works and the way you think. So if you think peacefully, you are peacefully, you promote peace. So definitely brain education is very, very important. How? How brain education affects me? Well, I think by giving lectures all the time about brain education, about memory improvement, and doing memory stunts, it actually helps me, and I actually try implementing it on a daily basis. For example, when I go to the supermarket, I don't take lists. I do try to remember. I do try to memorize. And people are mentally lazy. They say, I'll write it down, I have a poem, I'll put it in the cell phone. No, people should try to remember, use their brain. That's not only the future, that's the future of their lives, because it is a proven fact that the more you use your brain, the less chances you have, for example, Alzheimer when you grow up. Yeah, so it's very important to try doing exercises, developing new skills, and yeah, that helps. Of course, I think if you do something from the heart and in a positive way, it'll spread, and it's spreading.
Thank you so much. What has been your experience so far with brain education?
About a year ago, we had a training with Dave Bill on brain education, and what happened was the teachers got so excited because it matches very well with our curriculum. Our curriculum is called a Curriculum for Peace and Justice, and in the classroom you will find an oasis. It's a place where children, if they feel sad, if they want to be alone, they're able to go in that corner. They're by themselves. The teachers will just watch them and make sure that they're okay. So, and then another part of that is also we're very, very strong on making the best out of what you have. So in really trying to develop your potential to the maximum. Okay, so what brain education does for that is stimulate the cognitive functions of the children. And the teachers were very happy because when they had a training, the children really got so excited, they got so motivated, and then improved actually the classroom environment in terms of social interaction and developed the social skills of the children.
Great. So you actually trained the teachers for brain education?
Yes, we had about 39 teachers that were trained in brain education sometime in August of last year. Yes.
Have you seen change not just in the students but in the teachers as well?
There was a lot of improvement in terms of the teachers' social interaction, the teachers' ability to be calm in the classroom, and the teachers' ability to relate with one another and really be very conscious of the responsibility for each other's growth. And I think that's very important. And also, it motivated them to learn more about themselves, develop more about themselves for their children.
And I've heard a lot about how enthusiastic and different children who've done the BE program are, but I've never, been able to see it firsthand at a school system. Have you had any experience? Have you been able to see the changes in students that have done it and who haven't?
I probably would like to use my center because those are the things that I'm more aware of. And in our center, the children were very happy. There's a lot of social interaction. There's a lot of love for learning. But what brain education has done was really that the teachers and the children are more aware that this social interaction is really happening for both of them to connect with one another and for them to be more conscious of what the teacher can learn from the child and what the child can teach the teacher. And I think that kind of connection is very basic in improving the relationship and the socio-emotional intelligence of both the teacher and the child.
Last question. What do you think are the hopes and potentials for brain education to really have an impact on the society?
I'm really pinning my hope on it because I think if brain education program can really, really succeed in all schools, especially starting from infancy, I think there's so much hope in society. There will be change in terms of the children's ability to make decisions because that part of the cognitive function really starts even in infancy. And if we do that from infancy and then the toddler and then the preschool, then I think we will have very little problems when they're in middle school and in high school. Because I really believe that the critical foundation really starts when they are an early child. What do I think of it? Is it important? To me, it's very significant. Having 100 countries all over the world to really establish the brain education program is actually the seed of hope, because if we have seen that brain education program works, and because we've seen that, if there are 100 countries starting to plant the seed, then there's nowhere else to go but to grow, right? And when it grows, it will spread. So that's really beautiful. To me, the hope is right there. We plant the seed through these 100 countries, and it will grow. We've seen it grow. I've seen it growing in New York, and I've seen it growing in my own center. And I will not wonder if in the next 100 days or 100 months, you will see the seed of the brain education program grow.